A sudden revelation has shaken the political and media world. Candace Owens has disclosed that she created and distributed what she calls a kill switch, a confidential package packed with sensitive evidence meant to protect her if anything happens to her. This package, according to her, contains private communications, text messages, emails, videos, and legal documents that could expose individuals she claims have been threatening her and her family for years. The announcement has not only ignited curiosity, but also sparked a broader discussion about power, control, and the hidden mechanisms that determine which truths reach the public eye. If you're just hearing about this for the first time, stay tuned, and remember to subscribe for more verified updates as this story unfolds. Owens explained that she distributed multiple copies of this package to trusted people, journalists, commentators, and personal allies, so that if she is silenced, harmed, or suddenly disappears, the information will be released automatically. She describes it as a kind of life insurance policy in the digital age, a last resort against those she says have used intimidation, legal threats, and financial manipulation to break her down. Her exact words made the gravity of the situation clear. "If anything happens to me, these people have my permission to release everything." It's a chilling statement, one that evokes both fear and courage. In her explanation, Owens claimed the information inside this kill switch includes evidence of individuals in high political circles and influential media networks who, behind the scenes, behave far differently from the public personas they present. These are the same figures, she alleges, who have tried to bankrupt her and damage her reputation through coordinated smear campaigns. The implication is explosive, that beneath the surface of politics and public discourse lies a web of private manipulation and backroom coercion. And for someone as outspoken as Owens, that accusation carries enormous weight. But she didn't stop there. She urged others with influence, journalists, commentators, activists, to take the same precaution. Her message was clear. If you have evidence of wrongdoing or corruption, don't keep it in one place. Spread it among trusted hands. Protect yourself by ensuring the truth can't be buried with you. This concept of a kill switch or dead man's trigger isn't new. It's long been used by whistleblowers, investigative journalists, and even intelligence officers to safeguard critical information. What makes Owens' claim different is that she has tied it directly to her fear of political retaliation, suggesting her outspokenness has made her a target. A single revelation has reignited public distrust and reopened one of the most controversial cases in recent memory. Observers have drawn an immediate and unsettling connection between Candace Owens' kill switch announcement and the unresolved questions surrounding the Charlie Kirk-Tyler Robinson case, a case already steeped in claims of selective reporting, missing evidence, and questionable investigative conduct. What began as two separate controversies now appears to share the same underlying theme, the quiet but powerful hand that shapes what the public is allowed to know. According to independent analysts and alternative media voices, Owens' comments have done more than just spark conversation. They have exposed a growing belief that institutions of power, political, legal, and journalistic, no longer serve truth but control. Her claim that she created a secret package of evidence to protect herself from retaliation fits into a wider narrative of fear and manipulation. Across online discussions and late-night analysis panels, one question dominates. If the truth were harmless, why would anyone need to hide it? The implication is subtle but unmistakable. Perhaps certain truths are simply too inconvenient for those who profit from maintaining the official version of events. The Charlie Kirk case remains the most striking example of how quickly public perception can be engineered. On the night of the incident, within hours of the shooting, Tyler Robinson's name flooded every news feed. His image was plastered across screens, his social media history dissected in real time. Before dawn, public opinion had already decided his guilt. What the public didn't know was that the investigation was still in its infancy, evidence still being processed, statements still being collected, and critical footage not yet reviewed. Yet somehow, a full narrative had been born. Robinson was the shooter, the motive was clear, and the case was practically closed before it even began. Then came the footage. Days later, a clip surfaced showing a man fleeing the scene with a firearm in hand, a man whose build, height, and appearance didn't match Robinson at all. The image raised immediate questions, but those questions seemed to vanish into the silence. No press conferences addressed it. No investigative briefings mentioned it. The footage was neither confirmed nor denied by officials, and the story moved on as though it never existed. For many observers, that silence said more than any official statement could. It wasn't just an oversight. It felt like a decision, one made to protect a predetermined story rather than uncover the truth. Adding to the mystery was the presence of Robinson's partner, Lance Twigg, reportedly seen near the scene during the time of the shooting. Despite this, Twigg was never publicly questioned. His name never appeared in any official report, and no law enforcement agency acknowledged his potential relevance. The lack of inquiry baffled even those familiar with law enforcement protocol. In any case involving violence, anyone connected to the primary suspect is normally questioned as a matter of standard procedure. The absence of that step fueled suspicions that the investigation was either rushed, restricted, or influenced by external pressures. This silence, many argue, is precisely what Owens has been warning about, the kind of selective truth-telling that prioritizes public comfort over factual completeness. It's a system where narratives are carefully crafted, polished, and sold to the masses, offering closure at the expense of accuracy. When stories are wrapped up too neatly, too quickly, they often conceal something deeper. And for those following the Kirk Robinson case, the parallels with Owens' kill switch revelation are hard to ignore. Both stories involve hidden information, the threat of exposure, and an uneasy sense that the truth is being managed, not discovered. The official narrative of the Charlie Kirk case took shape almost overnight. Authorities announced a suspect, proposed a motive, and presented a storyline that appeared coherent, but on closer inspection, the timeline didn't align. Witness testimonies contradicted one another. Communication logs between responding officers reportedly showed confusion and delay. Even the time at which the lockdown was ordered didn't match early reports. Yet none of these discrepancies were ever publicly reconciled. It was as if, once the public had accepted a villain, no further clarification was necessary. History warns us that when justice becomes performance, truth becomes its first casualty. Owens' recent warning about her own safety underscores that very idea. She wasn't merely talking about herself. She was pointing to the machinery of control that dictates what counts as truth in the first place. In her words, information can be weaponized, and silence can be purchased. Whether through legal intimidation, financial coercion, or reputational threats, those in power can bend narratives without ever appearing to touch them. The audience, the public, is left watching a polished story while the raw, uncomfortable version remains locked away. Critics of the system argue that the greatest power is not in speaking, but in determining who gets to speak. Real influence doesn't come from issuing public decrees. It comes from controlling the flow of information. In the case of Charlie Kirk, this invisible influence seems to have determined which evidence saw daylight and which didn't. Key footage remains unreleased. Records have been sealed. Witnesses have gone silent. And the more the public asks why, the more that silence seems to expand. If there's nothing to hide, skeptics argue, why isn't everything transparent? That question doesn't just apply to this single case. It has become emblematic of a broader crisis of confidence in modern institutions. From political cover-ups to media manipulation, the public has grown weary of stories that feel curated rather than reported. Owens' kill switch has become a symbol of that distrust, a literal embodiment of self-protection in a world where telling the truth can come with consequences. In a sense, her digital safeguard isn't just about personal survival. It's an act of protest against a culture where transparency must be forced rather than offered. If Owens' claims are true, if her package of information really does contain explosive material about political and media figures, then its existence is more than a warning. It's a direct challenge to those systems of control. It sends a message to anyone who might consider silencing her. You can't erase me without exposing yourselves. It's a strategy that redefines power dynamics, one that shifts the balance from those who hide truth to those who protect it. What makes all this even more alarming is how familiar it feels. Across decades, the pattern repeats. A scandal emerges, Narratives are quickly solidified, dissenting voices are ridiculed, and only years later do documents, emails, or recordings surface proving that the conspiracy theorists were, in fact, onto something. From government surveillance to corporate misconduct, history is littered with examples of truths buried beneath convenience. Owens' public declaration has reignited that conversation about who shapes truth and why those who challenge it so often face punishment rather than praise. Transparency is not merely the release of information, it's the willingness to be accountable. It means allowing scrutiny, even when it's uncomfortable. But in many high-profile cases, including the Kirk-Robinson investigation, transparency seems to exist only when it serves the institution's image. The selective release of evidence creates a carefully curated reality, one that calms public outrage without necessarily delivering justice. The parallel between Owens' preemptive self-protection and the state's selective exposure of facts is telling. Both rely on control, but for opposite reasons. Owens withholds to survive. Institutions withhold to maintain order. Both stories converge on a single truth: information is power. And whoever controls it controls perception. The question, then, is not just what happened in the Charlie Kirk case or what Candace Owens may be hiding in her kill switch. The real question is why society must rely on leaks, whistleblowers, and encrypted backups to access truths that should already be public. For many, the answer lies in the delicate balance between public stability and uncomfortable revelation. Governments, corporations, and major media outlets argue that some information is withheld for security or legal reasons. Yet skeptics counter that such justifications often mask self-preservation. When exposure threatens credibility, the instinct to conceal becomes irresistible. And every time that happens, public faith erodes a little more. Justice, at its core, depends on light, on full visibility. It cannot function in secrecy or fear. When evidence is hidden and voices are silenced, the system begins to rot from within. Owens' kill switch is therefore not just a personal defense mechanism, it is a symptom of a deeper institutional disease. It speaks to a world where truth must be protected like contraband, stored across devices and hidden behind encryption keys, because those in charge cannot be trusted to protect it. The psychological impact of this environment is profound. Citizens begin to doubt not only their institutions, but also their own capacity to discern truth. The line between fact and narrative blurs. Trust becomes currency, and skepticism becomes survival. That erosion of confidence creates the perfect climate for manipulation, because once people stop believing in truth, they will accept whatever feels most comfortable. And in that comfort, real accountability dies quietly. The Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson case is now more than an isolated tragedy. It has become a lens through which to view a broader problem. The unanswered questions surrounding the investigation, the missing footage, the unexamined witnesses, the convenient timeline, expose how quickly institutions can move from justice to justification. The connection to Owens' revelation only amplifies that message. Both stories remind us that silence is never neutral. It always benefits someone. As Owens' words continue to circulate, they challenge not only her detractors, but also the public itself. What do we do when faced with the possibility that truth is being filtered? Do we accept the comfort of official statements, or do we demand the release of everything, the raw, unedited facts, regardless of whom they implicate? In that choice lies the difference between being informed and being managed. Ultimately, whether you believe Owens' account or not, her disclosure has done something rare in modern discourse. It has forced a reckoning. It compels people to question the nature of truth in an age dominated by curated narratives and institutional spin. Her kill switch may never need to be activated, but its very existence exposes how fragile transparency has become. Justice cannot exist in the dark. Truth cannot survive when treated as a threat. And democracy cannot endure when the flow of information depends on who holds the most power. Candace Owens' revelation and the unresolved shadows of the Charlie Kirk case are two sides of the same coin, both exposing a world where silence is safety and speaking out is risk. But history shows that the cost of silence is always greater. So, as this story continues to unfold, as questions multiply and new voices join the call for accountability, one question remains at the center of it all: who benefits when silence prevails? The answer to that question will shape not only the legacy of Candace Owens and Tyler Robinson, but also the credibility of every institution that claims to serve truth and justice. Stay alert, stay questioning, and subscribe for continuing coverage as this story develops.